Sponsors.
Assalamu alaikum, America and England and Australia and Scotland and wherever you're watching from. You're watching Think About It with Joshua Salaam. I'm your host. This is all brought to you by pennypillusa.org. I'm bringing back today Imam Mohamed Magid to talk about some hot topics. In fact, I think it's going to be so exciting, we might even start a whole nother segment just on hot topics in Islam. Check this one out. Watch today. We'll be right back. Assalamu alaikum. We are back, and as I told you, we're back with Imam Mohamed Magid. I cut out the monologue, I cut out everything so that we could have all the time that we could get with this Imam right here. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Assalamu, my brother.
Now, Imam, I remember, this is how I'm going to introduce the subject, and I'm going to turn it over to you. You know, I'm raised as a Muslim in America, born and raised Muslim. And I was taught in Sunday school and in other places that, you know, when the Prophet married Aisha, she was 6 years old, and then she was 9 when they consummated the relationship. And, you know, it was tough, you know, for a lot of people to adapt to that. But what we were taught were very logical arguments. And even there was another scholar that I spoke to recently that said that. She goes, you know, why are we talking about this? This is just a new thing that we're talking about this. You know, 100 years ago in America, people were getting married at 12 and 13 years old. And you know, they said if, you know, we're trying to use our standards of today to judge a society 1,400 years ago, you know, nobody at that time was using this age to attack the Prophet, things like that. So, you know, these were things that we said, okay, yeah, this is, you know, it's not right. And actually they teach this in like anthropology and things like that in school, that you shouldn't use your standards of today to evaluate Rome and the Greeks and things like that. So we adopted it and we understood it. It wasn't until I got to Adams Center and I was talking to you because one of the youth came to me and talked about how they were struggling with that. And you said, actually, you know, I don't think she was 6. I think she was older. And then you were the first person that said, because of this, this, and this, according to the Siyada. I said, what? How come they didn't say that also in Sunday school? Because I don't mind there being two differences of opinion. I don't mind, you know, but I was only taught one thing. And so I have decided to bring you onto the show for you to tell people what you told me, and they can agree with us or they can disagree with you. We encourage them to send emails in, but I'm turning it over to you to why do you think, according to your knowledge, she was older, and why do you think people, I think you told me it was a hadith in Bukhari about her being sick, but it's on you.
Thank you very much, my dear brother Joshua Salaam, for inviting me back. First of all, I agree with your introduction. It's still the introduction that you were taught when you were young. That you have to remember that sometimes we do use our perspective and perceptions about issues of today to try to judge history. And that can really get us in many troubles, because you have to, social context of events and so forth in the past is different than social events today. By the way, until today in America, the people under 18, which is still considered children, they can get married with their parents' consent. And in some places, it was the age of 12 and 14 until recent. Now in Virginia, I think age 16, they said they can get married. Therefore, someone 10 years from now says, how comes 14, 12 years old and 16 years old get married in America? And doesn't have to be married to 16. She can marry to someone who's 25, 26, when she's 16.
With their parents' permission.
Parents' consent. That being said, you have to remember also that you have to look to the social norms of the time. For anything, what are the social norms of the at the time for a particular behavior to occur? Also, that you have to remember that the there's so many people, they wanted to find something wrong with the Prophet, with the Prophet Muhammad, and none of them have mentioned anything about his marriage.
Right.
Zero. All of this is new phenomena. Also, that you have to remember that the Prophet Muhammad as a prophet, he has the best moral conduct. He will not do anything that jeopardizes any another person's well-being, especially in marriage. He have not married anyone, in that younger than him, and not been married before, except Aisha radiallahu anha. All the other marriages of his, like Khadija radiallahu anha, the only wife of his until she died, she was older than him. A man when he's young, then you may say he's looking for the younger women to marry. Therefore, when he was young, he married a woman older than him, Khadija radiallahu anha, and he married other women that older. You cannot say that then when he become older, now we want to marry younger, just for the sake of, the younger person. Well, that's I'd like just to clarify that that issue here. Now, the age of 6, age of Aisha radiallahu anha. Let's discuss this issue. I look into this issue. I just want to say something very important.
Okay.
Age of Aisha radiallahu anha is not one of the pillars of Islam, is not something that put you out of Islam or in Islam. Therefore, the Arabs, they used to use numbers sometimes in the way that they think at the time this was the age. Okay? Or sometimes they might use numbers indicate a lot or less, not even a precise number. There was no birth certificate at the time of Aisha radiallahu anha. Okay? Arab, they used to not to be precise in counting things.
That's why it's hard to buy stuff from them.
At the time, not of today, alhamdulillah. That was the case. If somebody disputed the age of Aisha radiallahu anha, whether 6 or 17 or 18, no one should make that like a major issue of aqidah, of creed. Okay? But why become an issue now? Become an issue because people have raised a concern in their mind about how comes a 6 years old being married. And I would like to say that I don't think even was the norm. I've not seen any narration that somebody other than her been reported in the tradition was 6. And therefore, by looking to chronological order, looking to the narrations, we'll come to know this might not be the case at all. Yes, and here it is. I would like to put something on the screen just to show people chronological order of the history of Islam, brief history. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ became a prophet in age of 40. That's 610. Okay. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu accepted Islam in the same year. The Rasul started preaching Islam publicly in the year 613. Muslim migrated to from Mecca to Abyssinia, which is Ethiopia today, year 615. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam engaged to marry Aisha radiallahu anha at 620.
Okay, it's an important year.
Yes. Hijrah, migration of the Prophet Muhammad sallam and his companions begins 622. Rasulullah sallam concluded the hijrah himself, migration, 623. The Prophet Muhammad sallam and Aisha lived with Rasulullah sallam as a spouse, 624. Keep that in mind. We'll come back to it later. but we'll come back to the conversation. Seeing that, people have seen that on the slide. I want them to realize that in order for us to understand what was the age of Aisha radiallahu anha when Rasulullah married her, that we need to look to the riwayah Imam al-Tabari.
Okay.
Which riwayah means narration of Imam al-Tabari. Imam al-Tabari is one of the historian and mufassir.
Now, I got a question that I'm holding already,
Yes.
because I'm going to let you get through this. But I have a question about your chronological order thing. But go ahead.
Yeah, okay. That the Imam al-Tabari in his book, of the history of nation and kings, he said that all four of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu children, all four of them were born before Islam. Keep that in mind.
You let us know when you want us to bring this on the screen.
Yes,
Okay.
before Islam. Aisha radiallahu anha, if Aisha was born in 610, at least just, this at the latest.
At least, because you're saying since all his children were born before the Prophet Muhammad became a prophet, that they had to all be born at least before 610.
Yes.
Okay.
If she was born at the latest 610, just before the revelation, this means she was 14 at the time. Then with the Prophet ﷺ and her living together. If you say she was just born in 610, forget about born before Islam. And you can put this slide just people can see.
Okay, let's bring up the slide here.
Bring up the slide. Therefore, I would like to, in this slide, to concentrate on the following. That he says, Imam Tabari, all the children, rahimahullah, rahimahullah, please be pleased with him, that all the children of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was born before Islam. If Aisha radiallahu anha was born in 610, at the latest, she was 14 when she got married. One narration.
That's one narration. Okay.
Go back to the conversation. طيب. Imam al-Bukhari, he says that Sayyidah Aisha radiallahu anha, Imam Bukhari, which is an authentic book of hadith, where that age of 6 being mentioned. He says that that Aisha radiallahu anha participated in both Battle of Badr and Uhud. Battle of Uhud, Badr.
Now, I want to say here that what's important for the audience is that, and we're going to take a short break here.
Yeah.
What's important for the audience is that you are quoting hadith.
Yes.
You're quoting hadith from Bukhari and other things. And so this is one of the things as a regular guy, really drives in this thing where I hear from scholars saying, okay, a hadith. There is a hadith that says that she was 6. But before you say that you know an issue in Islam, do you know the other hadith that are mentioned on this particular topic?
That is a very important point before we go further. I think you raise a very important point. You have to look in any issue of all the hadith being mentioned about that issue. You cannot isolate texts. And you have to be able to reconcile the different narrations into this issue. And the strongest way of doing this is or the best way to do this, is to bring all the narration and you create an analysis, a timeline. For example, if I said to you, I want you to go to the grocery store, buy me something. I said that to you at 11 o'clock. At 12 o'clock, I said, by the way, don't go to grocery store. You have not went yet. Don't go to grocery store. I have it. The last statement obligates the first statement. You go to grocery store and come back to me and said, I bought the grocery. I said, but I said don't go to grocery store. He said, no, but the first thing you said, that go to grocery store. I said, but you have to do the chronological order. I said, don't go.
Right.
The
I
second
got
one.
it already.
Yeah. Therefore, people have to look what being said first, or second, because certain things that might look contradictory, you have to be able to reconcile them. Call it جمع بين المتعارضين. That you have two narration, and you have to how to reconcile them. You reconcile them. Number one, the latest one obrigate the one before it.
Well, let's leave a cliffhanger for number 2. What was number 1?
The latest, the last one being said, obrigate the one before it.
If you want to know what the second one is, you got to come back and tune in to Think About It with Joshua Salaam and Imam Magid, brought to you by, what is this brought to you by? pennyappealusa.org. We'll be right back.
Since August 25th of this year, over 600,000 individuals have fled from Myanmar into bordering Bangladesh. They've witnessed crimes against humanity. The United Nations calls what happened in Myanmar textbook definition of genocide, textbook definition of ethnic cleansing. We've been here for the last few months, providing them with access to clean drinking water, providing them with access to primary healthcare services, helping them build their shelters, as well as giving them weekly food distributions. We can't fathom what they've witnessed. The ones that have arrived into Bangladesh are the lucky ones. They're now residing in between the 22 to 25 official refugee camps that have now been established. With your continued support, we want to secure their future. We want to stay for the foreseeable future so that we can dig more water wells, so that we can provide them with more medication and more medical advice, so that we can help build more shelters, especially with the winter coming and the cold setting in. Please visit our website to find out more about our work and to support us with your generous donations. Thank you.
Okay, we're back. I know you guys are on the edge of your seat. You paid for the whole seat, but you're only using the edge, mashallah. This is Think About It. I'm your host, Joshua Salaam, brought to you by pennyappealusa.org. Going right back for the second thing that Imam was talking about.
Yes, and sometimes the two texts have languages that are reconcilable. What do you mean? Like if I say to you, go and go to the grocery, buy grocery. I said that. Second statement said, go buy the grocery except don't get me onion. Therefore, there's both of them. I say buy grocery, but the other one says except onion. Okay, that means this is called muqayyid. That means I said everything except this. For you bring the two things together, and then you say this second statement have limited the order being given in the first one. For you reconcile, that's how you reconcile things. Okay. Now in here we're using chronological order. The Rasul the Imam al-Bukhari reported that Aisha radiallahu anha participated in those two battle and war, and he said that Rasul did not allow Ibn Umar, Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma, when he was 14 years old to join. That he didn't allow children to join. If she was so young, young and younger than that, then why she was in those two places? The second thing, the Imam al-Bukhari also reported that Aisha radiallahu anha said, I have not seen my parents except as Muslims.
Who said that?
Imam al-Bukhari
Oh, okay.
said that Aisha said, radallahu anha, I have not opened my eyes, I have not seen my parents. I was completely aware of my parents being Muslim, aware of them. لا أعقل إلا وباي مسلمان. That I have not become aware of them except being Muslims. That also he also reported that Aisha remembers that immigration of Abyssinia. This is a very good clue. Listen to this.
Okay.
Okay, that Aisha radiallahu anha, you can put that on the screen so that people can see it. That see this, so that's in writing. If you couldn't understand my accent, it is there. Okay, Aisha radiallahu anha, she remembers also the migration of the Muslims migrated to Abyssinia. That took place in 615. Okay,
so by the latest, she would have at least been 5 years, what you're saying.
Yes, the Rasul became prophet in 610. This Hijrah, attempt of Hijrah, 615. You cannot tell me an infant, even if you saw she was, people who said she was born 4 years after Rasul became a prophet, 1 year old, she cannot remember that her father and the Muslims migrated to Abyssinia, and her father tried, radiallahu anhu, Abu Bakr, to try to immigrate. Okay, she said that her father tried to do that, and she was a newborn at this time. How she could, if she was newborn, how she could remember that? That has to be, it has to be older than that. I think that we come back out from the slide. I hope that they bring us back here. طيب ابن حجر العسقلاني, listen, this is,
I'm listening. I'm all ears.
Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani radiallahu anhu is one of the commentator of hadith, highly respected scholar, the one who actually made commentary on Bukhari. Talk about Fatima al-Zahra, the daughter of Rasulullah. He said, Fatima al-Zahra, the daughter of Rasulullah, was born during rebuilding of the Kaaba in the year 605, when the Prophet ﷺ was 35 years old. Why that's significant? Because it happened after that. It is agreed that Fatima radiallahu anha,
And this is before the prophethood.
yes, it was 35, 5 years before he became a prophet. It is agreed that Fatima radiallahu anha was 5 years older than Aisha radiallahu anha.
That's agreed upon.
Yes. This narration has Aisha being born in 610. According to this narration, she was born 610. And therefore, she was 14 years old when she began living with Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. She was not 9. طيب. Another narration. We'll show you. طيب. Let's make our audience.
Now, I want to say that this is very important, because this is, I know we're kind of breezing through this. I know you wish you had all day to talk about this, because you said you kind of give this talk to imams and other people who would be considered scholars, and it's not uncommon for scholars to kind of hash out things and
people
disagree.
challenge me sometimes and talk about this.
So for the studio audience, like, you guys are probably gonna have to watch this show over and over again to look at these slides and everything. But it's not like something that people are just like, oh yeah. No, this is something that scholars are like discussing and talking, and he's made this presentation to show his evidence for why he believes what he believes.
You can put this slide, the slide on that about Surah Al-Qamar. I just want to say that you have to remember, Quran was revealed in 2 periods. One of them called Meccan period and the Medina period. What do we mean by that? In 13 years, Quran was coming down before the Prophet ﷺ migrated from Mecca to Medina. Medina era considered a new time or different revelations came down in Medina. Surah Al-Qamar, which is a surah that I think to be recited tonight in Taraweeh or tomorrow. Surah Al-Qamar is a surah that Aisha radiallahu anha was aware of it when it was revealed. Sayyidah Aisha narrated that she was a young girl when Surah Al-Qamar was revealed. She was a young girl when Surah Al-Qamar was revealed. When Surah Al-Qamar was revealed? Surah Al-Qamar is a Meccan surah revealed after about 8 years before Hijrah, in the year 614. If Aisha was 9 years old at the time, she was living with the Prophet ﷺ in 624. This means she was only a newborn when this surah was revealed. How should you remember a newborn will remember the surah? It has to be older than that. Therefore, according to this narration, Aisha radiallahu anha was probably between the age of 6 and 13 years old. Okay? At the time the Surah Al-Qamar was revealed, making her between the age of 14 to 21 years old when she began living with the Prophet.
And that's based on like the Arabic understanding of what a young girl is. So that word, you say, okay, the Arabs understand this to be a girl between 6 and 13.
Yes, 6 and 13, that's what's called young girl. You cannot say, I remember when it was revealed, and you just newborn. Now we'll go to another issue. Asma, her sister. You know, let me tell you, just before I spoke about Asma, you know how many people in Sudan was born in January 1st? Because Sudanese, they don't have a birth certificate at the time.
Right.
Half of Sudan that was born maybe in the 50s and 40s, their passport says January 1st.
Right.
The entire country almost have the same birthday. What I'm trying to tell you that people sometimes
It wasn't a big deal. I was born in this year.
Because they estimate. They call it tasneen in Arabic. They estimate. There's no birth certificate. They estimate how old you are. But you know people best by the age of their siblings. That's the most accurate way to say it. I think this child was born 5 years before this child. This child was born 6 years before this child.
You have a frame of reference.
Yes. You have to create a frame of reference. They used to create a frame of reference of events. This person was born the year of the flood. This person was born the year of this. Here, historians agreed that Asma radiallahu anha was born 27 years before the Hijrah. Remember that. I don't know if you have seen that already. They put it on the screen. But that's what it is. She was born 27 years before Hijrah. Are you with me?
I'm with you, right?
Okay. How many years Rasulullah stayed in Mecca before he went?
13.
13. That was a good one.
Islamic school quiz.
You're good, brother. Okay, 13. Therefore, Asma was 13 years old when her father accepted Islam in 610. She was, you see what I'm saying? That how many years Rasulullah stayed in, well, she was 14, say 14. Because 13 years in Hijrah, with 27 years, you 27 minus 13. What left? 14. Okay? Well, we just changed that to 14.
I was better at Islamic school than math.
Then by that analysis, Asma radiallahu anha was 10 years older than Aisha radiallahu anha. Everyone said that. She was 10 years older. Historian said she was 10 years older than Aisha radiallahu anha. That means Aisha was 3 years old when her father accepted Islam. You get this one?
Well, I will say it's getting complicated, but I'm following you that what you have to do is, because you said this before, you said, yes, there's a hadith in Bukhari that says that she was six. Yes, it's there. And you said, but according to...
And she's the one who said, I was 6. That's why people said she knew her age more than anyone else. But you have to remember that people can use number and it's not being precise, even talking about themselves when the children. Aisha radiallahu anha. My point is that you have to think about the number being used as an estimation of someone's age. Okay, here that means Aisha radiallahu anha she was 3 years old when her father accepted Islam. Okay, and 17 years old when she begins living with Rasulullah, meaning that she was born before Islam, and she was 3 years old when her father accepted Islam, because her sister is 10 years older than her, and her sister, who was born 27 years before Hijrah, and if you minus the 13 from 27, that means she was 14 when, or 13. If that's the case, that means that Aisha either was 3 or 4 when Rasulullah became a prophet. Okay? When did he marry her? He married her at the end of the Hijrah. Okay? You add that, 13 plus 3 or 4, either 16 or 17.
So let me finish my statement, because we're going to take a short break in a little bit. But what I was saying is that even though to the studio audience or the audience out there, it might be starting to get complicated, but let me tell you why. If you see this one hadith that says she was 6 when they got engaged, and then 9 when they moved in or whatever, that you say, okay, well, that's easy. It's right there. I can tear that page out and I have it. But what you're showing is that there's other hadith that identify what's going on that might be even stronger than that hadith and well established, and it's agreed upon, but it's not as easy like you can just tear one page out that says that she was 14 or that she was 17 or she's 18. It takes a person that knows about these hadith and say, okay, well, let me take this page and this page and this page, and this has a clearer picture that she was older, and that's what you're doing. And I hope that they're following you, and these slides are helping them. We're going to take a short break so that they can process this. I know a couple of them. They're going home to get their aunt and uncle, be like, oh man, you got to hear this. This Imam, he's going way off. But I'm at the very end. I'm gonna give my why I really like what you're doing here. But hey, this is Think About It with Joshua Salaam. We're talking about the age of Aisha. May Allah be pleased with her. We're going to come back and talk some more about it. We've even delayed the game that we normally do. We've just given Imam Magid all the time in the world to talk about this. And then it might open up a whole new series on hot topics in Islam. So let us know what you think about it. We'll be right back.
Water is an important part of life. And the difference between clean and dirty water is the difference between life and death. We know that the issue is not that there's a lack of clean water, but a lack of access to it. So we're on a mission to change that. Through Thirst Relief, we're building wells across Africa and Asia to provide millions with access to clean, safe, consumable water. The goal is simple: to provide clean water to every person who needs it. To irrigate gardens like these, horticultural gardens in Gambia. To make sure that no person ever has to drink dirty water ever again. So join us. Visit pennyappealusa.org/thirstrelief and donate today. Thank you.
Okay, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. You're back with Think About It. I'm your host, Joshua Salaam, brought to you by pennyappealusa.org. Imam Magid, what he was talking about before we broke was he's been saying, you know, she was at least, you know, 14, but now he's talking about that he believes 17 is the stronger chain of events and narration, and you're going to tell us about that.
Yes, two things. Number one, when she said that I come to know my parents are Muslims, I was aware, I was comprehending, understanding that my parents were Muslims. There's no time that I did not.
I don't remember them converting or
converting.
accepting Islam.
Yes,
they were
exactly.
always Muslim.
That shows that she was aware of them accepting Islam.
But what if somebody says, well, that's a weak hadith, and this one is, the other one's in Bukhari? It's Bukhari.
No, but this is the Bukhari, the one I just mentioned to you. That's the Bukhari too. You have to remember also that in the historical events, that you have to look into what I call them, again, chronological order. What happened first, what happened second. If Asma radiallahu anha was 100 years old when she died, and she died in the year 73, 73 of Hijrah. Can you, if you minus 73 from 100, what do you get?
27.
Exactly. That confirmed the first thing I told you. That she was.
Oh, so now I have two things confirming that.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
27. And if she is 10 years older than Aisha radiallahu anha.
27 minus 10 is 17.
Exactly, my brother. Okay? That's it. Now, let me tell you something else. There's a narration of Imam Ibn Kathir that Aisha radiallahu anha and her sister Asma, among the early children, or early accepting Islam as children. They come to Islam as children. And that happened in the year of 613. She cannot be just newborn. She has to be born before Islam. My conclusion to this, that Aisha radiallahu anha was born before Islam, not into Islam. If that's the case, that she was born 3 years before Islam or 4 years before Islam, we will put her in age of 17 when she got married. Some reflection. It's important to remember that acceptable age of marriage varies a great deal from one society to another society. People like to judge Islam of 610 with 2018. We need to ask, what happened to Europe in 2016? 610.
In 610?
610. European, other civilization, what is with the standard of anything? You have to compare apple to apple. I want just the audience to think about that. I said earlier, the Prophet Muhammad has enemy. His enemies attack him, attacking his, ability of bringing the Quran and so forth. Maybe somebody else told him this. He's a poet, and none of them said, "Why did you marry a child?" None of them said that. That wishes make me understand that at that time, I have not seen any narration. I'd like people to correct me as they see this. Maybe people can write me, my colleague, other imams, that who was 6 years old married at the time.
So this is an important point that you're saying. I want to make sure the audience isn't missing this, that you're saying out of all your studies, and you studied a lot, and you studied with other people who have studied a lot, none of you, to your knowledge, has ever come across anything in Islamic history or Arab history at that time, any narration of somebody that young getting married? Is that what you're saying?
At 6 years old.
At 6 years old. Mm-hmm.
Okay, now the problem today of of people like to look to Islam through I call it microscope. They try to find something that they can create an issue with it. I just want to say to people, I can look to any other text of any religion,
Mm-hmm.
whether that's Old Testament, New Testament, anything like that, and can take things out of context,
Mm-hmm.
even from the text itself, and try to make big deal about it in the modern time.
Mm-hmm.
We have to remember people been accepting Islam through centuries.
Mm-hmm.
In America, Indonesia, Malaysia, Africa, Asia, Europe, and none of them this was a problem for them to accept Islam.
Mm-hmm.
You say, oh, the Prophet married children. Therefore, I saw this in Bukhari. Whatever. It became a problem, obstacle between me and accepting Islam.
Mm-hmm.
Why it was not a big deal? And was not a big deal today for people exploring Islam, reading the Quran? Because this is not an essential thing. It's not one of the pillars of Islam again.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something make it or break it. Therefore, people should not try to debate me
Mm-hmm.
and, oh, it has to be 6. Why it has to be 6?
Mm-hmm.
I just show you a lot of evidence. If I just put a doubt in your heart
Mm-hmm.
that it was not 6, then you should accept the fact that it could not be 6, maybe.
There's a possibility.
There's a possibility. And
now let's go have iftar.
yes, if that the case, then why, this is not like we're saying that there's 5 daily prayers.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody tried to debate and to say there's 6.
Mm-hmm.
No. This is called ma'loom min ad-din bid-darura. This is precise, clear cut. There's no debate about it.
Mm-hmm.
But this issue is debatable.
Mm-hmm.
Since it's debatable, that's why a person has to stick with one particular age.
Well, what I want to know is why hasn't it been debated for the Muslims? Because I was at this function, it was at Adams Center actually, it was like 200 people came in for a talk with Dr. Jackson, right? And he brought this up. And almost all 200 people had an issue. They never talked about it, but in their heart of hearts, they had an issue with the Prophet marrying somebody so young. That's all they knew. So my concern is, like you said, it doesn't matter to me. I'm not one that's like, oh, I'm going to lose my religion if she's this age. But we debate about meat. Is can you eat at Chick-fil-A or not? We debate about prayer. Can you pray with your arms down? People know that there's these differences of opinion. Most Muslims have not heard what you're talking about today, and I want to know, as an average Muslim, why?
Yeah, because the Muslims, they don't realize, even in Bukhari and others, you have to reconcile narrations.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you cannot just accept one and then ignore the others.
Mm-hmm.
The other issue is that the understanding of the hadith,
mm-hmm.
in the light of another hadith, not every person have that ability or skills.
Mm-hmm.
It's very important for someone teaching seerah
Mm-hmm.
is to show the both narration, to say, although people said this,
Mm-hmm.
but also all of this narration showing that the possibility was 14 or 17 years old,
Mm-hmm.
was not 6.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, I repeat that, I have not seen, and I would like somebody who watched this video to contact me, to show me other women at the time of the Prophet ﷺ,
Mm-hmm.
of the companions, were married when 6 years old.
Mm-hmm.
You know what Rasulullah said?
What he said?
He said that a woman cannot be married unless she give her consent.
Mm-hmm.
He said that. A woman has to be being asked,
Mm-hmm.
a 6 years old can make a decision in marriage? He will not say something he contradict. A woman has to give her consent of marriage.
Well, you know, for me, after I had this conversation with you, I brought to you this Quranic verse that I thought, and it had a word that was in there meaning like a child has reached the age that they can, I forgot what the word was.
Rushd.
Rushd. Did you want to talk about that at all or no?
Yeah, rushd is the age of property, where a person differentiates between right and wrong. Okay, you cannot make a 6 years old make a decision which want to marry so and so or not. People talk about age of maturity. I don't see in any, maybe 9 could be. A child 9 or 10 years old in some culture, they make decisions. You know, can have age of property of 9. 6 years old would not be able to make a decision to say, I want to marry this person or not. And Rasulullah ﷺ said, do not have a woman get married without a consent. She has to say, either she verbally or she's in her culture, if she's shy, it has to be known that she accepted. A person cannot make a differentiation between right and wrong at 6 years old. If Rasulullah did not allow them 14 years old, he did not allow 14 years old to go to war. He considered them children. Would he go and marry someone who's 6 years old, cannot able to make a decision?
To distinguish between.
People cannot say that, even if it is in the Bukhari narration, because there's another narration to reconcile the riwayah of Bukhari. Very important. And I have confidence on that.
Alhamdulillah. Well, we're going to take another short break and come back with just a couple minutes left. But hey, I hope that you guys have enjoyed this. If this is more of the type of stuff that you want to hear, Imam Magid said he might, depending on the demand, be willing to talk about other things in Islam that have been debated or controversial, but we have to hear from you. So we're going to take a short break. You've been listening to Think About It, and I hope that this is something that you will at least think about. I'm your host, Joshua Salaam, and this is brought to you by pennyappealusa.org. We'll come right back for the speed round. We're going to see who can get the other person to say one word or 2 words the fastest. We'll be right back.
So as you see here, there's a well being built. The locals used to walk miles to get clean, safe water, but now it's getting built right in front of the doorstep, which I think is a great thing. And you can see the women out here, the men out here, they're very happy to have this here. Please donate generously to this fantastic thirst relief project by Penny Appeal. Donate online.
Welcome back to Think About It. We only have a couple minutes, so we decided to only do a couple of words. So we're going to see who wins, who gets to these 2 words first. You're watching Think About It with Joshua Salaam, brought to you by pennyappealusa.org. And Imam Magid's up here talking about he wants to change the rules. Why are you going to change the rules?
Last time I lost for nothing. Like it doesn't make any sense. Okay, let's see what's going to happen.
Would you like to play differently? It's, I mean, it's
no,
one of the last shows.
I will go with game, but okay, no problem.
Okay, no excuses.
Yeah,
how about this? I'll let you go first.
Okay.
I'll let you go first.
Okay.
You ready?
The first
Start
word.
with the top word.
Yes.
Okay.
King.
My gut is to say his spouse, but let me hold off and see what else you might be thinking for king. I would say monarch.
No.
Okay. Was it queen?
I said no.
No.
But this guy.
No, I said, was it queen? My first guess was monarch. And
No, you cannot.
I'm trying to help you out. Okay, all right, here we go. You ready?
I have to go back.
No, you're right. It's my turn.
Yes.
But I said no, brother. All right, here we go. That would kind of be two words, but let's say carry on. Acceptable, producers?
Carry on. Luggage.
Close. All right, your turn.
Crown.
Crown. King. Crown. King. Prince.
No.
No. Okay. My first clue was carry on. Roller.
Bag.
We're getting there. We're getting there. Your turn.
Okay.
King. Crown.
Okay.
How about this? First word. Whoever gets
Chair.
the first word wins.
Chair.
Throne.
Yes.
Dang, I shouldn't have said it. You ever play that game and you're like, next point wins, and then you lose and you realize you should have said something else, but you win. Alhamdulillah. Thank you very much for playing, and it's always an honor to have you. And I tell you that in my time with you, I worked with you for 11 years. You realize the importance of two things: studying Islam, but also knowing the what I call the gist of Islam, that it should bring people comfort and happiness and ease. And if you find that Islam is bringing you discomfort and sadness and hardship, then there's something wrong that you got to evaluate.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I've learned from Imam Magid. Hope you guys learned something today. Tune in for the last show tomorrow. I won't tell you the guest, but it's a special guest, even more special than Imam Magid. Can you believe that? My mother, coming tomorrow. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
This Deen TV video was made possible in part by Penny Appeal USA, Small Change, Big Difference, and by Recycle Processes Incorporated.